Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
You know, I used to laugh at hearing Cole talk about wanting to burn it down and start over. And just to be clear, we're not condoning violence here. This is definitely not that kind of podcast. But I do get where he's coming from, because when you look at Congress, or honestly our government as a whole, it feels broken in pretty much every direction. People are frustrated, tired of shouting into the void, and wondering if we're appropriating money and prioritizing the right things. Are our legislators even listening to us anymore?
Yeah, it's like this collective burnout. Everyone's fed up, and the easy fantasy is just let's clear out all of Congress and start fresh. But that frustration comes from somewhere real. We've got a system that's supposed to represent us, yet somehow the voices that get heard seem to belong to lobbyists, wealthy donors, and people with stock portfolios the size of a small country's. So it's no wonder some of us want to hit reset.
Totally. But the irony is this. These are not unelected overlords. Like them or not, we voted for these people. This is a system of our own making, which also means if it's broken, we have to own some of that. So today we're asking, what does fixing it actually look like? Is it term limits? Is it ranked choice voting? Is it banning stock trades? Or do we need to completely rethink how Congress works altogether?
Right. Because the frustration isn't just about politics. It's about trust. We, as Americans, want to be heard, not managed. We want to know someone's actually listening, not just nodding along until the next election. So before we talk about how to fix it, let's start with why so many people think it's beyond repair in the first place.
I think it's really easy to feel helpless about all of this. But the truth is, if we build it, we can rebuild it.
Assuming we can agree on which parts to keep.
And if you've listened to our podcast before, you know that's exactly where we're headed, straight to the why behind all of the frustration. Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Mom.
We have a big episode planned.
Which started out really just talking about term limits and if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but kind of morphed, oddly enough.
I mean, it really opened up a whole much bigger can of worms. Tell me I'm wrong.
Nope. So, I mean, if you look at this, we're looking at congressional approval has been stuck for years, around 15 to 20%. Think about that. I mean, think about that Yelp rating. Would you go visit?
Right? That's a great way to look at it. I hadn't thought about it like that.
I mean, really.
That's
So
less than
we're
a
not
1
just
star.
cynical. Yeah. We're not just cynical. We're hungry for change. And is it new faces? Is it new systems?
Yeah.
I think it's probably both.
Probably a combination.
I think it probably is, but I think that the concept, the idea of starting a whole new system, because so much of our government is broken or feels broken, that just feels really daunting. And it kind of feels damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, it feels daunting, and then you have to put it into the apparatus of what's allowable and how can that be performed, and how do you even begin to make those steps. So we kind of started looking at term limits. I mean, it's not really the burn it down, but it's get some new faces in there. And the interesting thing is that 87% of the American public supports term limits. And that's a fascinating statistic. But then you start
it's an
thinking,
inherent mechanism to drain the swamp.
yes, But
But it
then you
also would
start thinking about
require participation from those same people who it would kick out of their jobs in order for them to pass this kind of legislation.
that's true too.
Yeah. Maybe.
But even beyond that, before you get to that
Maybe.
point, if we're really that supportive of term limits, why do we keep voting the same people into 95% of incumbents are voted
Voted
back
back
into
in.
office.
Name
So
recognition.
we're doing this.
Yeah.
We could stop it, but we're doing this.
And that's why I said in the intro, we have to take responsibility because we keep choosing them. We
Yeah.
keep choosing the same people. We are not, you guys, I'm throwing shade on all of us right now. Every single one of us. We are not stepping up to be that new blood, to be those new perspectives, fresh perspectives, because it's daunting,
Yeah.
because we're kind of lazy sometimes, because it's hard, because it's frustrating, because it's expensive. What if there was a different way?
I think that's a really important question to ask in this process. Why is it so expensive?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I think that we have to take into consideration the fact that all of this, the systems that we're trying to break into, the systems that need revamping are really, really complex. I think that part of that expense is built on laziness. I don't want to learn how that works. I don't want to go figure out how to revamp it. Just vote Ted Cruz back in. What? Like, because it's hard.
yeah.
I mean, Congress alone runs on layers and layers of precedent and procedure and relationships. Veteran lawmakers often know how to craft all of these bipartisan coalitions, to use committee power strategically and anticipate all of those political landmines. I mean, we talked about it before we were getting ready, while we were getting ready for this episode. Joe Biden, like him or not, had served as a public servant for half a century. You cannot tell
Yeah.
me that he didn't have some experience and knowledge, insight into how to work the system in his favor.
I
Yeah,
keep
that's
debating.
that's the sticking point though, in his favor, not in his constituents' favor, in his. And I
But it,
feel like that is what is most common with our representation in modern times is, yeah,
yeah.
they have figured out how to work the system in a way that benefits them. But I mean, we've talked about this before through I think it was Jennifer Lawrence, a video that I sent you guys a year ago probably. It doesn't matter what public sentiment is. There's only a 30% chance of legislation getting passed on it, whether
Because
we
it
favor it
directly,
completely or not at all. Because again, we're not being represented. Yeah,
right,
sure, they have that experience and that knowledge to best benefit themselves.
right. And I think that that's kind of why term limits sounds like such an appealing concept, at least to me. Like, okay, we're going to take them out of power. We're not going to give them this unchecked, unlimited term so that they can learn the system, figure out how to work it in their favor, and screw us in the process. But I think that that's really hard.
I
And I
just
think
keep
that there are
thinking,
cons to that too.
yeah. I just keep thinking, is 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 it really that bad to put new people in? I understand the part about they don't have the longevity. They may not know how it works, but I'm just not convinced that newness is bad and that it's not supportable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in theory, a shakeup of fresh blood into a stagnant system could be a great injection of life, of new perspective.
Yeah.
But I also think that you have to kind of look at that more holistically. If you vote in somebody who is inexperienced and they're learning the job and learning the skills and forming the relationships, and then by the time they've done all of that, they get removed because their term limit is up, you have a constant turnover. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are both very familiar with corporate America, if you will. If you had to be training somebody new to do any job every 6 months, every year, every 6 years, that is a cost. I mean, millennials get such a bad rap for changing jobs every couple of years because it benefits them, but it also is hard on employers. They look
And
at your resume and say, "Well,
I
I don't
don't
know about that." They're gonna leave
I
by the
don't know
time I train them.
anybody who starts a job and goes, "I'm just gonna stay here for 6 years. I'm gonna get on with this company. I'm gonna stay for 6 years, and then I'm gonna go do something else." So I get
Right, but being a
that.
representative should not be a career choice. That should not be what your long-term goal is.
That's a good
Right.
point.
Again, and you're talking about, okay, they've got to come in and learn all of these systems that they have to utilize. Well, here's the thing. It should be relatively simple. You shouldn't have to build relationships with other senators to get the things you want passed, because it's not about what you want. It's about what your constituency wants. And as long as you're doing that, you don't need much training, in my opinion.
Y'all are
Say, hey,
making this sound really good.
the people that voted me in want this. I'm going to vote for it, win or lose.
Yeah.
I just think that that kind of sells short the learning curve because it does take time to get up to speed on what all of your constituents want. I mean, I'm thinking about, again, from every ladder, rung of the ladder of public servants. If you're talking about city council or school board, or you're talking about presidents and Congress and the Senate, they have to figure out what it is that their constituents actually want and how to accomplish that. And I think that you've got some other kind of factors at play. Think about lobbyists, think about bureaucrats, think about congressional staff, again, at every level. So those folks are always in play. Those folks, no matter who is voted into that role, whoever who's voted into office, they already have some of that institutional knowledge and can go to that candidate or go to that elected official and say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. Hey, this is what we're going to do to accomplish that. And as the candidate, as the elected official, you then have to start moderating and modulating your actions to balance lobbyists, bureaucrats, congressional staff, and your constituents, because it
Why?
isn't about
You're
all
not
of them.
there to represent bureaucrats and your other senators or lobbyists. You're there to represent the people that voted for you,
But you
Right, but
gotta
period.
you
figure
have
out
to
what
know
they want.
how. Yeah,
Yeah. So, I
Put a
mean,
poll on Twitter. Hey, you're one of my constituents. Should I vote yes or no to this?
yeah.
I mean, I understand it's slightly more complex than that, but not much.
it doesn't have to be if we don't make it.
I
Yeah.
mean, here's my
Yeah.
thing. I think that the staff that they currently have could be responsible for getting that new person up to speed. One of the things that greatly concerns me is the lobbyists, because I think, especially if you put a new person in there who doesn't know the ropes, all of a sudden you've got somebody who can absolutely take over that person, and they don't even know that they've been eaten before eh,
It's
they
the
know
frog in the
anything.
blender, in the frog in the
Yes,
hot water, boiling
hot
water.
water. They don't even know it, and all of a sudden.
They're boiling.
And so I think we have to take lobbyists out. I
Yeah.
think we have to take big money out so that we can actually, like you say, co-represent the people. And and you're right. We could use the internet to do that pretty easily today. I mean, that's different than it would be 20 years ago. But today you could certainly do that pretty easily. And and I think you could get up to speed. So there does seem to be some benefit of that. But here's the other side of it. I mean, term limits were a discussion back when the Constitution was being written, and it comes back up and has multiple times. I mean, Ted Cruz even talked about it as recent as 2023. It comes up and it never goes anywhere.
not even just talked about it in 2023, introduced legislation to be voted on to actually make some semblance of change, to make some semblance of rules. I mean, I feel like
Yeah,
in some ways it's the Wild West right now. It's like, oh, anything goes, everything's fine. And we've got to figure out a better way to work within that Wild West.
this is purely speculation, but in the last 50 years, how many times that was suggested by a representative, knowing full well that there was no way it would ever get passed because it would unseat everyone who was there for a reason, but it looks really good on your political resume. It
Right.
looks
And I
great to
question that.
voters.
Right.
Yeah, I certainly
Exactly.
question that. But on the other side of doing that, then just you have somebody in there who's sitting there for and this isn't a diss to Biden, but for 50 years, and it is their career, and it's what they've been doing, and they don't answer the same way that you and I answer. I mean, they have different criteria for themselves than they do for you and I, and so that's frustrating to me.
There's a reason there are so many just it is extremely common for people to dislike lawyers, politicians, and doctors. I mean, most people, oh, he's a politician. Oh, he's a lawyer. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
That's a
But
stereotype.
it is, but stereotypes become stereotypes for a reason because they're rooted
Yeah,
and based in fact and reality,
yeah.
right? And that's not saying that every stereotype is right. It is not. That is not my point at all. But it started
So we
somewhere.
we have the juxtaposition though of complacency because you've been there for so long and you don't have to fight for where you're at anymore versus the challenge of learning something new in a really fast way. Which one of those is the right answer?
There
Tell you
is a
one
right
thing, I've
answer.
never been more successful in any endeavor than one that I was constantly learning at.
For sure.
Oh, that's valid.
For sure. I mean,
We've been locked in stagnation politically for
Years.
decades.
decades. Yeah. Yeah.
Unhappy, unsatisfied with it, and not really making any changes.
Yeah.
So, pros and cons of term limits, what they are, what are the other options?
I don't really see any cons personally.
Yeah.
I I definitely think that there are some cons. I think that I mean, if you were to put in place a term limit and kind of one of the things that the lengths of time that have been tossed around are 6 or 12 years. So they can be in office for 6 or 12 years. What happens if because Cole, you said this in a podcast ages ago now. Mom and I were talking about being good business owners and the more that you know that, it gives somebody like more opportunity to take advantage of those people. Right? And so I just kind of wonder if a lawmaker only had 6 years or 12 years in office, would their incentives be the same for fixing and helping the American people if they knew they weren't gonna be there for very long? Or would they be planning for what happens after that? "Hey,
Yeah.
this is gonna put me in a good position as soon as I get out of this office. I'm gonna do that," because that puts, again, me into a good position, not my constituents.
Yeah. There's certainly an argument about if you were limited, what would you accomplish and would you have a long-term perspective or would you just be looking for the quick fixes that you could leverage to you and your constituents to say, "Oh, see what I accomplished," and that gives you a step up for the next thing, whether that be a lobbyist or the ne the next senator or whatever that is. So there's certainly that argument.
Yeah. So I do think that there are cons. I think that they can be addressed, but I do think that there are cons. Cole, and I really sorry to kind of jump around here, but I kind of like, I'm not personally a fan of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But I do like the idea of getting more buy-in and insight from your constituents. I don't think Twitter is the platform for that because right now,
Sure.
I'm not. I know that that wasn't your intention or point, but I mean, I think that I think that if we were to take all of the bloat and all of the shit out of all of these bills and amendments, and you're voting on actual issues rather than big, huge 986-page bills, I think that it would be better. But right now you're seeing all of these situations where it's like, "Hey, let's put together this reform bill about X, and we're gonna shove in A, B, and C too." Because why not? Because then we can get our way, and nobody's gonna actually read all
Yeah.
986 pages.
Nobody's gonna
So,
know that we've voted ourselves $1,000,000 in there because, we're doing it something
yeah,
else.
how freaking shady is that? Vote on one issue, make laws for one issue instead of these big, huge, sweeping generalizations or these big, huge, sweeping nasties.
Compromises.
Compromises. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we call them. We call them compromises. But what if we really did limit a bill to just one subject?
Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, you have to wonder how difficult the voting would be if you just had one thing to vote on and not consideration of the 75 other little things that we've thrown in here and compromise, but we're just looking at
Holy
A.
shit, we might actually get something done.
I mean,
What?
amazingly, it's a, and you don't hear people talk about that very much, I don't think. Let's limit what a bill can contain.
I think that that would be much more effective than even term limits. Do I think that term limits need to be addressed? Yes. But I think if that's one of those big sweeping changes, if we made that one change, one bill, one vote, one decision, I think it would be a big deal. I think we would see a lot of impact from that.
It would be a
I
whole
do
lot
too.
easier to get bipartisan support, and it would be much more difficult to throw in all of this crap that is not
Yeah.
beneficial to the American people.
Yeah.
We
Because
need to
who's going to
start
vote for
a,
something that is I mean, there have been things that have been passed legislatively that are not beneficial to the American people because they got thrown into some other package
yeah.
and,
I
and
mean,
hidden in the fine print. There
even
should
Marjorie
not be
Taylor
fine
Greene.
print in these bills.
No, even Marjorie Taylor Greene said she didn't read the big, beautiful bill, which I just thought, okay, that's got to be political suicide to admit that out loud, that you did not read the bill that you voted on.
You guys, we have all sat in high school English classes. Can you imagine your syllabus stipulating that, hey, we're going to read this book. This is important. These are the lessons that were coming out of it. And you walk into your class to give your book report, to turn that in. And your response is, well, I didn't read the book. I also didn't watch the movie, but I watched the movie's trailer. Does that count? No. Somebody should smack
I mean, for
her.
some movies, it might, but
No. Do
He
not
might
encourage this.
he might have a point, Cal, for some movies. Not all, but some.
Goodness.
So I think that's another option that we need to look at and see, how do you produce that? How do you get it to where a bill is a bill? For one
So
maybe
thing.
change congressional procedure.
So I will say right now, we're in the 200 or 119th Congress, I believe, right now, correct? I'm pretty sure we are. I believe the
I think
last
that's right.
Congress put together, the 118th Congress put together a bill called the One Subject at a Time Act that would require that each bill enacted by Congress embrace no more than one subject, and that subject must be clearly and descriptively expressed in the title. It has
And
not
Great.
been passed into law. It was introduced in the Senate, and was referred to the Committee of Rules and Administration and remains in the introduced stage. But I think that it's something that we should really be taking to heart and paying attention to. Can
I
you
would at least
also
like to experiment with it.
I would like to know who votes against that.
And what their justification is on that?
I don't wanna know their justification, I just wanna whack them. Here's the list of all the people who need to be smacked.
Remember the beginning where we said we're not promoting violence? No
Damn
whacking.
it. No whacking. Okay, fair, fine. I still just wanna poke them in the eye.
Maybe smacking, but no whacking.
Oh, I was not talking about murdering people, for the record.
Just wanted to
Sorry.
clarify there.
Yeah,
She was
good
talking about walking
clarification.
around with the skinny end of a fishing rod.
Yeah. Ooh, that
Excellent sound effects this episode. Love it.
hurt.
Love it. Okay.
Okay.
So we talked kind of about the pros and maybe not cons, depending on who you are, about term limits. But I do believe that there are other ways that we could fix, especially our broken Congress. So let's talk about a couple of things. Let's go into voting and representation reform. I think that we cannot have this conversation without talking about ranked choice voting. And we've talked about it briefly on a couple of other episodes and a couple of other preps for various episodes. And I do think that we should do a full episode on ranked choice voting. But I think that we need to take that into consideration when we're talking about congressional reform. So, for just a quick update, a quick bringing everybody up to speed in case you're not familiar. Ranked choice voting lets voters rank candidates in order of preference instead of just picking one. This encourages candidates to appeal to a much broader base, promoting consensus and civility because winning requires that that candidate be a second or third choice for many voters. So you can't just say, oh, I hate them, I'm going to not vote for them. You actually have to put them in there somewhere. Ranked choice voting is currently used in Alaska on all state, federal, and presidential general elections following a top 4 nonpartisan primary. It is used in Maine for federal general elections for U.S. Senate and the House and state primary elections. It is also used some in New York City and Hawaii for special elections for federal and county council offices, where early results there show that it can reduce negative campaigning and help more representative candidates have a chance to win. And so I think that in general, ranked choice voting is something that we should be looking at. Can you guys imagine going to vote for a president and doing it in a ranked choice voting style? I'm going to vote for this one first and this one second and this one third. And how much better the representation of that would be rather than just, I'm only voting for this one, but not that one.
Because you end up with a vote that isn't a minority vote. It
Right.
has to come out to be a majority vote. So ranked choice is really taking and putting, I want this one first, this one second, this one third. And then maybe the two top come out from that voting and they've got the majority, they've got the highest amounts of votes. And so then 3 and 4, you take those votes and you split them between 2 and 3 to go to those people. So you end up increasing the percentage of people who want that candidate. It's a better reflection of who is really being chosen.
Choice, yeah.
And so it does sound beneficial.
Yeah.
I also think this is an opportunity to go back to the old style where the runner-up is your vice president. You don't get to pick a running mate because I think all of that is silly to begin with.
Both of those eliminate partisanship.
Right.
I also think that there should just in general be more presidential candidates than we normally see.
But you
Well-
could do that really successfully when you're kind of spreading that. I don't want to call it wealth, but it kind of is, but spreading that wealth in multiple choice voting, in ranked choice voting to say, hey, I want so and so and so and so and so and so in this order rather than only them and no one else.
I'm really curious how lobbyists or PACs could influence that and what that, how they could intercept the initial idea of it.
The results.
Well, I think that's probably the most important reform to make in general. Before any of this can really be super successful, you
Preach
have
on,
to
brother.
eliminate that.
The money.
Agreed.
Yeah. And there are some options in that are being discussed on how to do that we certainly need to look at and consider, but you've got to take the money out.
Right.
And if you look, the amount of money today that is spent on elections is criminal. I mean, what
There is
could
a
that do?
multi-billion-dollar industry specifically for smear campaigns.
Yes.
Think about
I
all we
mean,
could do with that money instead.
yes, you could fix the debt
Well,
in a very short period of time.
you could make a dent for sure.
I mean, we're
$37
spending
trillion is a shit ton.
it's a shit ton, but I
And a
mean,
couple of billion at a time would make a difference, but
it
if we
would
don't take
make
the
a
money.
huge difference. And that's what we're spending.
Right.
How much did Musk spend on Trump's president?
$245 million, I believe.
I mean, what if you took that and applied it not to a campaign? Or what, when you say you want more candidates, Cole, if you had the money taken out of that and everybody had to come in and not have that amount of money to actually support their campaign, you would have more candidates in there. So we got to get the money out.
Yes.
The PACs and the lobbyists, and that's a big deal because that's going back to Citizens United and saying, okay, the Supreme Court said we could do that. Now you got to get the Supreme Court to say, oh, that was a really bad decision. And that's probably not going to happen in this Supreme Court. But it's, in my opinion, getting the money out, especially what they call dark money, where you don't know where that money's coming from, that it's hidden. That's got to come out of this.
That should be illegal anyways.
It should. I agree with you. And it used
Whoever
to be.
thought that was a good idea?
Should also be poked in the eye. Not that we're advocating violence, but still. Sorry.
You have a point. You have a
Metaphorically.
point.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you rank choice and you have a better representation and it's less partisan and more people are involved in that, that's got to make a difference.
Yeah.
Especially if you can get it down to one issue bills.
Right. Wouldn't that
And
be
a
awesome?
lot of people, I think, would argue, oh, well, it's more efficient that they can pass more. Yeah, but if they never get anything passed because it's got so much crap in it that nobody wants to vote for,
It's super
what if you
inefficient
could,
anyway.
what if you could pass each of the individual portions of that and say, hey, we don't want these. Great. Instead of it going back and forth 35 times to say, oh, well, you have to make this change for the guy from Minnesota so that he'll vote for it. But the guy from Michigan, he doesn't want that. He wants the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So we have to do something else for him. Or you could just say, hey, this one issue, this is how we think it should be done. Yes or no. Move on to the next one.
Can you
Vote,
imagine?
pass it, put it in
Move.
place.
Yeah. Quick or dead, Cole. Quick or dead.
Yep.
I've been
I
using
may
that a lot
regret that
lately.
you've been using that phrase with her, Boo. She's using it quite often.
But can you guys
Tough.
imagine going to the grocery store and doing your grocery shopping based on packages that were already put together for you? So I want to go
No.
and make X dish. I can't go and buy individual ingredients. I can only buy this package that contains some of them or this package that contains other of them. So I have to buy both of them so that I can make one dish. And then I have all of this waste and bloat for stuff that I don't actually need.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy.
It sounds like in theory, especially from the grocery perspective, that, well, this is going to make everything easier and we only have to supply these packages and everything will be fine. But from a choice perspective, that makes it damn near impossible.
Yeah.
The same thing is true of this. But
Yeah, it's forcing bloat.
yes, yes, I agree.
That's a great point, too. It's forcing bloat. You want to get your deficit down? Stop forcing bloat.
Yeah.
I'm putting
Stop
that
trying to
into,
hide stuff.
yeah.
Stop, like, you as a public servant should not be hiding anything. You should
Yeah,
be the most
No.
transparent out of all of us.
don't
Period.
be
Yes.
shady. I mean,
I
some of
mean,
this
this is
stuff just
not
feels
hard.
really common sense.
It does. And we've lost that.
I think we've overcomplicated things. I think we've overcomplicated so many things so greatly that you can't see the forest for the trees anymore.
I think that's intentional.
I agree. And that's why I want to poke everybody in the eye.
Non-violently.
Non-violently.
Yeah. So on kind of a different level, recently we've talked about DEI, and there's this idea referred to as proportional representation, which I mean, it, at face value, doesn't seem like a bad idea if 18% of your population is made up of a particular demographic, then shouldn't 18% of your representation also be made up of that demographic? Where I think that struggles is I think that similar to my perspective on DEI, I think that to a certain degree, at least has a potential to
Eliminate the
reduce.
people who are
Yeah,
actually qualified, those merit-based participants, those merit-based candidates, so that we can meet a number.
Well,
yeah.
and here's my question. If you're using proportionate, what is that? Is that ethnicity? Is that partisanship?
Gender, I mean, it's all of those things. That's the thing, and that's what complicates it to a certain degree. And it also says, Callie, because you're a white woman, you're incapable of representing me as a white man.
On
Even if we
every
agree
issue.
on everything,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks on its face more inclusive, but I think it, like you said, it makes it so much more complex and significantly less tied to local representation, and it's the broader spectrum. So if you say, hey, we're going to vote based on proportional representation or for proportional representation, is that in my town? Is that
I
in
was
my
just fixing to
state?
ask, what
Is that
demographic is that going to cover?
right?
so if that's the case, I mean, how do you enforce that? Do you say, oh, well, Texas is made up of 51.5% women, so one of their senators has to be a woman, but what if it's 18% black women and 45% white women and the rest of it is a mix of everyone else? How do you represent that in senatorship? Do
Right.
you just have to have 100 senators from every state so that you can get, I mean, you're talking about complicating something to a level so severe that it just doesn't make any sense to me when it should be as simple as, do my constituents want this, yes or no?
Right. Are we willing to trade the simplicity of do my constituents want this, yes or no, for quote unquote fairness in representation?
But here's the thing, you may not represent all white women, just like I don't represent all white men.
Sure.
And I was
Absolutely.
thinking that, I mean, finding out, we talk about our constituents agreeing, but the likelihood of that is so slim, especially in America, of everybody agreeing to one thing. So then you
But how
as the
many issues are
representative have to figure
50-50?
that out. Do what?
How many issues that are important to our society are 50-50?
Very few.
Very few. Most of them are 80-20 or 90-10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
but
of them may
Cole,
be
we're
70-30, but that's not
we're
very
s-
difficult to determine.
we're still not getting that representation.
Right.
Besides the
I mean,
point,
even if it is 70-30, how often is the 70% getting represented? And I
30%
get
of the
you.
time.
E-
Statistically
Exactly.
speaking,
E-
30% of the time, no matter how many
Exactly.
people want it or don't want it, 30% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could, as I was thinking through this, I was thinking, well, this could be beneficial because Cole has talked before about needing more representatives in the House. So maybe you could increase that. Maybe that would be beneficial there. And you don't mess with the senators. Maybe you just keep the 2 senators and the House just. But again, I go back to what demographic are you going to use? White male?
Well,
White
and
female?
I think that there's
Democrat?
something to be said of the gerrymandering of all of this because all of those demographics and all of those lines right now are being drawn very polarizingly, very
Well,
politically.
intentionally, they're picking their voters. Their voters are not picking them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're talking about overcomplicating, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past. I do think constituencies should be smaller. If constituencies are smaller, that means we have to have more representatives, which is, to me, fine. Make a new Capitol building. Bring in some stools. I don't care. Like, if I have to represent 500,000 people, it's a whole lot harder for me to set up a town hall and go and meet all 500,000 people to figure out what they want, as opposed
Yeah.
to even 50,000.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be able to determine that. I also think that means that we probably need censuses more often than every 10 years. I,
Well,
I think
now you're getting into that deal about, when can we redraw? When can everybody redraw their maps? And if we're going to do that on an administration just based level, then who knows when we're going to do those census? Is it going to be every
10
2
years
years, or
with
is it going to
the
be every 10
census.
years? Yeah. And what the heck is it going to look like if you don't have a standard and you don't stick to that standard or you use partisanship to mess with it?
Right,
you have
right.
to eliminate the ability to do that.
And I think that we're seeing both sides of that coin right now. You've got Greg Abbott in Texas saying, hey, we're going to gerrymander everything and redistrict it in benefit of Republicans. And then you've got Gavin Newsom in California saying the exact same thing for the exact same or for the exact opposite result. We're going to gerrymander California for the benefit of Democrats to
And they're both
counteract and
pointing their fingers at each other
counterbalance.
saying, you're wrong for doing this.
And I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make sense. And so all of a sudden you create a super partisan scenario that lets politicians choose their voters instead of letting voters choose their politicians. Like, what sense does that make?
I
It
mean,
blows my
Cal,
mind.
you went to vote this week, and you were going to vote for, was it a
District
representative?
18 to
And you were
replace
going to,
Sylvester
and you're
Turner's seat.
sitting right in the middle of District 18.
Yeah.
Except
Kind of. It depends on how you look at the
no,
map.
you were in
If
the
you look at
middle.
the map, the district is literally a circle around a different district.
It's a donut.
Yes.
And you just happened to be in the donut that didn't get to vote.
In the hole.
In
Yeah.
the hole.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is changed literally by one street. It's so crazy to me.
They told you when you went to vote that you literally had to put your zip code in to figure out.
Not your zip code, your address. So my
Oh.
neighbor could be a totally different district than me. Because it's based on your address, because of all of this drunk drawing of district lines, of
Do
districts.
that again? What kind of drawing?
Drunk kind. Shut up, Mom.
Sorry.
But I just think that there are other states, and California was one before they put it on the ballot in this last election last week or whatever it was, that all of these states have created, or several states have created, independent citizen run commissions to handle that redistricting instead of making it political, instead of letting politicians do it, because it is a really polarizing
Do like
situation.
jury duty.
Yeah. Call them in. It's a
It's not something that you get to volunteer
draw.
for. It
Yeah.
is your civic responsibility, your civic duty. And you know what? If you want to keep it every 10 years, keep it every 10 years. And every 10 years, you have a diverse group from, look, we've got Zoom meetings. Texas is massive. You can do this electronically.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. You
Yeah.
could.
You can go in and have 1,000 citizens from a state, 100 citizens from a state that say, hey, these are the number of representatives that we have. This is what the census says. This is who lives where. You can have all of that information at their fingertips. And are some people going to blow it off? Sure. But it puts the onus back on us to say, we're not going to let these people misrepresent us anymore.
And it's feasible. This is a really practical, nonpartisan solution that would not even require any kind of constitutional overhaul. Just
You
Yeah.
don't
state
get to
level
see each
changes.
county's voting
Yeah.
history. You
Yeah.
don't get to say, oh, 10% of Dallas County voted blue,
X.
the other 90% voted red, whatever it is. You just say, this is how many people are here, break it into population blocks and say, this is how many citizens we have, this is their distribution. How are we going to draw these lines?
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be made so complicated. And that's what we've done. We have made it all so complicated. We have made it all so partisan so that I'm in power and I can maintain my power. Like, that's not how democracy works, guys. I think one of the other things that we need to chat about is filibuster reform. You know,
Okay.
I I think that it is, in many cases, and again by both parties, it has been used and abused. And I think that we need to draw some hard, fast lines that say, look, these are the rules that everybody has to abide by across the board. This whole thing about you don't even have to stand up and talk. You can just claim filibuster and call it a day. That's ridiculous. I have
Lazy filibustering.
Yeah, I have been very
I
much an
also
advocate.
think that you
Go ahead.
wouldn't even have to address this if you could get the single issue bill passed.
Agreed.
Because it's
Totally.
yes or no.
Yeah,
Should we do X or not?
right. That's a great point, Cole. I'm very much an advocate for, if you have a complaint, you need to be willing to address it. If you are not willing to address it, then do not complain. And I think that a talking filibuster is very much kind of the same thing. If you do not want this, you can't just say, no, I don't want it, never mind. Nobody can want it. Give reasons why. Make your case.
It's really hard to try and set rules for that, though. Do you remember that episode of Parks and Rec with Patton Oswalt where there's some city reform or city bill that they're trying to pass, and he comes in and he spends like 3 days explaining the entirety of the Star Wars universe history? That's his filibuster.
No.
Because I mean, right now, like that's a totally legitimate form, is just to get up there and talk. And I get it, but like, how do you set rules and how do you determine guidelines for where that conversation is allowed to go? I
Well, and here's the other side. Do we really want things passed that aren't in the majority and a simple majority? I mean, some of these things need to be a super majority.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, one issue bills, 60 votes, 60%. Fine.
Yeah.
I
It
think
either
that's,
passes or it doesn't.
or it doesn't.
Yeah. But
I think you
again,
would
I
have
think,
so much more efficient representation that way.
Yeah.
if that representation is representing the constituents instead of their own personal interests.
Sure. Here's the thing. You have to take all of these together for it to work,
Yeah, for it to make a
which is
difference.
why you hear me say burn it down. Because I think getting a lot of these passed is going to be extremely difficult by themselves, much
Yeah.
less all together.
Right. One issue, one vote, one move.
So you were just saying one issue, one vote, and I was just thinking, okay, maybe we put into a bill term limits, and maybe it's not 6 and 12. If you want to have some longevity there, make it, 12 and
I don't.
24 or whatever that is. But
But
If you
can you
still
I
feel
imagine if
called
literally
you
to be
was
a public
can't?
thinking
servant, be an advisor.
that'd be great too. But I'm
But at the
thinking you
same
put term
time,
limits in, you put ranked choice voting in, you put pull lobbying out, you pull representation in. So that's not, I mean, and you could put it all under, you know, one title, but it's not really one thing. That maybe it's just reform. Maybe that's what it is, and we get it put through that way.
I don't know. I'm also just sitting here thinking if you, as a member of Congress, can't get good stuff done, can't get your stuff done in 12 years, you probably shouldn't be here. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
Personally, I'm leaning more towards 4 and 8.
Would you do those off cycle with the presidential
Yes,
elections? So you've got
I would.
22 and 26 versus 24 and 28
Yes, I would.
to keep it a little less partisan?
Interesting.
And to be a very easy, clear signal to the executive, hey, you had the time to do this.
Yeah.
You didn't. We
You're
don't
out.
like this. You're out. You can no longer. We're picking someone else to represent us now. Tough.
Bye.
Work
But
with them or
again,
don't.
you gotta take the money out of it because as long as the money is as long as you're able to use the money against the incumbent, you've got issues.
I
Now,
mean,
thinking about this a little bit deeper, we talked about having a supermajority vote, but if you're doing that, then you're essentially neutralizing the position of president.
What
You're
do
at
you
least
mean?
neutralizing one of their checks and the power of veto because you can pass a bill with a
A
simple
majority.
majority and they can veto it as the president, but then with a supermajority, you can essentially overturn their
override.
veto. If you need a supermajority for everything, you're effectively neutralizing the
Uh,
president's power of veto.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, and the truth is supermajorities are only required on certain types of bills. So maybe maybe we just need to look at that and make sure that we're in the right place on that. Or maybe it just needs to be not a supermajority, but not a simple majority either. But filibusters are only for supermajorities, right?
Well, with 41 votes, you can maintain a filibuster, essentially. You need 60 votes to end a filibuster, which is
Okay. That's
not
what I'm
quite
thinking.
2/3, but pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we also talked about committee modernization, and I hadn't really heard that before. So, Cal, will you give me a definition?
Yeah. So bipartisan improvements that have been made quietly to make Congress more functional. Think about upgrading technology for legislative drafting and data sharing. Can you guys imagine if I've got notes on my 986-page bill that I have handwritten on like a teacher on a paper with my little red pen, in order for me to share those with you is really time consuming. Okay, let me scan all the pages. Let me send it all to you. Then you have to go find every single one. I mean, there has to be some kind of track changes and so you can follow somebody
Oh my
else's.
lord, you just put AI into Congress.
I'm not so this
It's
shows
going
that
to
I'm going
happen
that far.
sooner or later.
I mean, but yes. I
I
think we have
mean,
to be very careful about it, carefully regulated,
okay.
but yes. Um
That doesn't put AI in a decision-making capacity. That puts AI in an efficiency capacity.
A
Very different
Yes.
summarizing.
things.
At
Yes.
least initially, yeah.
Yes. Um, there is, in recent years, the House Select Committee of the Modernization of Congress. Yes, that is a real committee, has made some of these practical improvements, upgrading that technology, data sharing, and things like that, making it easier, streamlining bipartisan retreats, and joint hearings. No. Streamlining onboarding for new members and staff, encouraging bipartisan retreats and joint hearings. Can you guys imagine a world in which you are required, as is the case with any relationship, to sit down and talk about things and actually come to a compromise rather than just, yeah, mind blowing. I know.
Ooh.
I know. But we have to take into consideration the history because for years, all of these committees have been plagued by that partisanship, by inefficiency, by outdated technology, and members very rarely collaborate across the aisle or share their own data
We need
effectively.
more aisles. I've
I
been
think that
screaming this for years. We need more aisles.
I
We need
think we
more
need
than two parties.
I think we need more talking. I go back to the um James Tallarico story that he tells on the Joe Rogan episode or podcast where he's
mm,
talking about this is a young Democrat in the Texas House who ends up making friends with an older Republican. And the only reason that they become buddies is because they share a name. And they have found this one completely out of their control common ground piece in their name that led them to go to each other and say, "Hey, buddy, I've got this on the table that I want to present to everybody." And the other one comes and is like, "No, we're not doing that." And he's like, "But wait, let me tell you why." And because they have found common ground with nothing but their names, they're willing to hear the other one out. This James is willing to hear out that James and make compromise. "Oh, I didn't see it that way. Oh, I hadn't thought about it like this. Hey, what if we tweak that like this so that we both get to win, so that both of our constituents get to win and get to benefit from this?" And they're able to find this much more common ground and compromise because they like each other, because they're
respect.
friends. They
Y-
respect
you
each
don't.
other.
I get what you're saying, and that compromise is necessary. But isn't that really just kind of beautifying the old school term horse trading?
I
What
don't
we're
know.
we're arguing against is saying, if you want to pass this bill, I'll vote for it if you throw this into that bill for me. If
No,
you do this thing.
I don't think
no.
so. I think it's a conversation and and of a back and forth of having, "Hey, this is where my brain is at. Oh, this is where my brain is at.
So
This
instead
is."
of making a 50% change, let's make a 40% change and modify it this way. So that's the compromise that you're achieving and accomplishing based on conversation, based on you and your knowing of your constituents and them knowing of their constituents. That's the compromise that is being impacted.
And it's
Sure.
really having that conversation and and
I
giving the
think
other
you
guy
would
a benefit.
I think you would force that naturally with more parties. Because right now you're red or you're blue and it's just two tribes. But
But
if
the
you've got
parties are kind of
10
eliminated
tribes,
if you do ranked choice voting altogether.
Yeah.
no, they're not, because 3 of your top 5 could be Democrats.
Sure, but you still have two others in those top five.
Right, but ranked choice voting doesn't inherently eliminate the two-party system.
You're right. It just doesn't
We
promote
have it
it either.
ingrained in us as Americans in modern society that, oh, if you don't vote Democrat or you don't vote Republican, you're wasting your vote.
That's true.
And ranked choice voting doesn't inherently eliminate that. As much as I think ranked choice voting is certainly an interesting idea, I think it's important to implement at the same time to say you can only have one Democrat on the ticket. You can only have one Republican on the ticket. You guys as a party have to get together and decide, hey, these are the people who are going to represent our parties. But it's also as important to say, there are these other political parties, and naturally there are going to be allyship and concentration. Certain parties are going to align with certain other parties based on their platforms. So you can still get majorities on especially one issue bills, because the red party, the blue party, the green party, the purple party, the yellow party all feel similarly about this one specific issue. Hey, let's do this thing to prevent school shootings. Or let's not do this thing because it could lead to XYZ. Whatever it is, if you have more diverse representation instead of I'm Republican, I'm Democrat, you are inherently going to force that interaction to say, hey, this is how my party feels about subject A. We think we should do it this way. And your party feels a little bit differently. You think we should do it that way. What if we meet in the middle here? Now because, and we're doing this with 10 parties instead of 2 parties, we come to a broader compromise that is likely more beneficial for more people.
I guess I just see it as that you're already accomplishing that with the ranked choice voting because you're not so specifically voting based on party. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but because you are voting for more than just party, it's like you said a minute ago or several minutes ago now. If you vote for your presidential candidate and you vote for your vice presidential candidate and they have to work together, that's a totally different scenario than I'm voting for this pair based on their primary party or that pair based on their party. It's already more intertwined. It kind of naturally
Sure.
forces it to be more intertwined.
Sure, but I don't think that in and of itself is enough.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that it's a move forward to get a you to talk to each other instead of just fighting with each other over the partisanship,
Right,
which
but
is
if you
what
have a district that only has someone running on a red ballot, on a red ticket, and only has someone running on a blue ticket, ranked choice voting isn't any different than what we're doing right now.
you have a point.
Yeah.
You've got to have more than 2 candidates.
You have to incentivize that additional representation,
Yeah,
which we don't right now. We actively fight against it as
yeah.
a society because
Do
we're
you
told over and over and over again, if you don't vote red or you don't vote blue, you're wasting your vote. I think ranked choice voting would help to alleviate that, but I don't think it does so just in and of itself.
Well, and I think if you again, I think everything that we're talking about is individual points that all need to be taken into consideration in order for this to be productive. It's not
Very much
a
so.
Chinese menu where you just pick and pull one at a time or one versus everything else. Like they have
Yeah.
to work in conjunction with each other. And so I think that the moment that you take the money out of
Cut
all
it
of
down.
this, I think that the moment that you take all of the money out of this and you take the lobbyist out of the picture and out of the equation, that automatically, naturally gives you more of an opportunity to incentivize more representation, more different types of
Sure.
candidates, more
Better representation.
parties, better representation. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You also talked about, and I had not heard this, recognized this, about the Article 5 convention.
Yes.
This is how we get around the swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
The
kind of what it
problem
is.
is, how many of states are a swamp of their own?
true. But go ahead and explain what Article 5 is, because maybe we as the citizen can encourage this.
Yes. So the Article 5 convention, the US Constitution gives us gives the United States 2 ways to propose amendments. One of them doesn't have to go through Congress. The first way is the way that we're familiar with. It's the one that's always been used. It's for Congress to propose an amendment, which then goes out to the states for ratification. Then the second way, this is where things start getting interesting, is for the states themselves to call for what's known as an Article 5 convention. So if two-thirds of state legislatures, 34 out of 50 states, agree, they can call a convention to propose amendments to the Constitution without Congress. Now,
And there are
here's
some things that are already in place under Article 5, but have just never progressed to
the final countdown.
ratification, right?
So, yes. So, like, for example, I'm trying to think, it's off the top of my head. I think, and it could change, have changed since I saw it last, but I think as of right now, there are 19 different states calling for an Article 5 convention. This was, call it 8 months ago, a year ago. I believe there were 19 states that were calling for an Article 5 convention. Now, of those 19 states, they don't all have to agree, "Hey, we're gonna call an Article 5 convention to address this." It could be California wants this, and Maine wants this, and Texas wants this. So we're all going to come together for this convention, and delegates of each of those states would then meet and propose their potential amendments. It's not everybody has to agree on this one specific thing. We just have
Oh.
to agree that we want to come together because we don't feel like Congress is taking care of this for us. So we're going to all agree that we need to have a big sit down, a big meeting, and then we're going to talk about those specific things. And that could be any kind of potential amendments. That could be anything from term limits to balanced budget to campaign finance reform. Whatever they come up with, they would still need to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. So again, 34 out of 50 have to agree that we're going to come together to have and host this convention. And then once they're together, we then have to go out to 4 more additional states at very minimum. If we all 34 states agree on those, and 3/4 of the states, 38 total, have to agree to ratify those specific amendments before it can become part of the Constitution.
I did not realize that it wasn't regarding the same subject.
Correct.
In my mind, I went to, oh, if you could get the states to come together on abortion, then you could have that set up. But you're saying it could be all of them coming together to say, okay, we think this is messed up. And so we want to pull this together. Does that keep it from being like what we talked about before, where it's one bill with 50 things in
I
it?
think you
No.
can have both, because if California wants this thing and Texas wants this thing and Utah wants something else and Maine wants something totally different, there's
The
nothing to stop you at that convention from voting on all 4 of those things.
Right. The
I'm
whole
just saying,
point is,
not
hey,
as
we want
one.
to get together. We want to get
Okay.
together. We're agreeing to get together so
Congress
that we
isn't
can
doing their
talk about
job.
my stuff,
We're going to go
and
change
I'm
this.
agreeing to talk about your stuff, even though it's different
Mm,
than mine, but we all agree that we need to have some conversations.
that's interesting.
Yeah. And so there's some controversy to it. And I specifically have thought about it on several occasions. Do we call for this? Should we be calling for this? But there's some kind of hairy parts to it. Number one, it's never been done before. We
Okay.
know that originally the Constitution of the United States was intended to be addressed in a living, breathing document that was updated every 9 years, I believe. And that has never really taken place with any consistency. And so there is no real rule book for how one of these Article 5 conventions would take place. And so there are critics who worry about a runaway convention. So once it starts, delegates might not stick to only the stated issues, term limits, balanced budget. They can open it up again to any part of the Constitution that they want to change and talk about it. And supporters of these Article 5 conventions argue that that could be very much an overreaction. The process is that it's the people's ultimate tool to be a check on Congress, especially a Congress that refuses to reform itself. And so Colorado could say, hey, I want to talk about abortion. And California could say, hey, I want to talk about gerrymandering. And Texas could say, hey, we want to talk about term limits. And Wyoming wants to talk about a balanced budget amendment. And Florida wants to talk about setting limits on federal power or campaign finance. And we all agree we're going to have these conversations. We're going to get together and have these conversations and then start making our case to everybody outside of those 34 who all, at least the minimum of 34 who agreed to come together, and they still have to get buy-in from the rest of the states.
And do you know who represents them in the convention?
Yeah, who determines each state's delegates?
Who shows up?
see.
Is it the governor?
I believe it's their state legislatures. Let me confirm that,
So what's
though.
the difference if it's it's their state
Their state
legislators?
legislatures, not their federal legislatures. Or
Oh,
legislators, rather.
interesting. I'm gonna have to go look and see who the 19 states are.
I think we should be doing this every 10 years.
Yeah,
As was intended? How weird.
yeah,
Um,
fascinating.
Even if you don't do anything, even if it's to just check in and say, hey, everything's moving right now. Everything's going smooth. Everything's good. Fine.
Which I can't imagine.
Sure, there's always something that you can improve, but not everybody's
Yeah,
going to want that improvement. And that's okay. You can still go and talk about it, but just as, I mean, really as an additional check and balance to Congress, because if Congress refuses to reform itself, they don't get a decision in this if it's outside of them every 10 years.
that
Yep.
just feels radical and interesting to me.
I think that it is, and I think that that is part of,
It's
in
not,
our
it's already written into the rules.
I mean, it is. We've just never exercised it. We've never done it. And so I think that that kind of puts it, we talked last week about the bleeding edge, the leading edge, and the,
I've never used first gear on my car. What? First gear is not radical. It's just a part of the mechanism.
Yeah, he has a point. Interesting. Well, I'm going to go look and see which 19 states are in there. And then I'm going to begin to wonder, can we as individuals be writing our state saying, hey, we want a convention based on X?
Sure you can.
yeah.
I mean, you can do it, but I'm wondering if you can, is there a grassroots effort that can get started on this and we can produce something
I'm sure there are already several.
that might be very interesting? Yeah.
So it does look like right now there, the states that have passed a resolution calling for a convention under Article 5, as of 2025, there are 19 states. Georgia, who called for it in March of 2024, so 11 years ago, and they raised their hand and said, we want to do this. My hand's
Wait a
still up.
minute.
2024 or
2024 was last year.
Sorry, 2014.
Okay.
So 11 years ago, they raised their hand and said, hey, we want to do this. We're willing to come to the table. Who else wants to join us? In April of 2014, Alaska did, Florida did, May of 2015, Alabama, February of 2016 was Tennessee, Indiana was 2016, Oklahoma and Louisiana were 2016, Arizona was 2017, North Dakota, Texas, and Missouri were all 2017, Arkansas, Utah, and Mississippi came to the table in 2019. And then in 2022, Wisconsin, Nebraska, West Virginia, and South Carolina all came to the table. So as
And
of
it just stays on the
2025,
books as a resolution. We want to do this for 11 years.
until they until they pull their hand down via a state voted resolution. Yes. So, hey, we're willing to come to the table and talk about stuff. We've got stuff we want to talk about. We'll come and talk about your stuff too. Who else is with us?
Just interesting.
It's kind of wild and kind of boring all at the same time. So, the other
Yay,
thing,
decorum.
yeah, the other thing that I think we kind of have talked about, one of those tweaks to constitutional reform that would help us reset things would be something like a balanced budget amendment. So, a balanced budget amendment is a proposed change to the U.S. Constitution that would require the federal government not to spend more money than it takes in each year. In other words, the budget must be balanced. Right now, Congress can and regularly does run on deficits, meaning they spend more money than they collect in taxes. Those deficits are covered by borrowing, which only adds to our $37 trillion national debt. And a balanced budget amendment would make that illegal unless unless certain exceptions were met. So if they were to come together and say, guys, we are going to balance our budget, we are not going to spend more than we bring in, what that would look like. Now, in order for that to happen, all of Congress would have to agree we're eliminating this from the budget so that we aren't spending it, and we are putting this in the budget, or we are allocating all of these funds in this way, and it would be a big deal.
What I can say is that I've seen balanced budget issues in healthcare, but the calculation used has been greatly disputed. I mean, and that comes, like everything, it comes from the provider side saying, no, that's not right. And, this committee over here that's been established to set it up that doesn't seem to know
Care.
very much about the industry that they're talking about going, oh, we're just going to do X. We're going to cut $1 million out of here. But it's not based on
Reality.
actual expenses and revenue and things.
Well, and I think it kind of goes to Cole's point that he's made on several other occasions, carefully regulated. So I think that we saw this kind of attempt to be made at balancing the budget with the enactment of Doge, and they took a chainsaw to the budget instead of a scalpel. It requires much more
Yeah.
detail, nuance, specificity. It requires the dedication of a scalpel. You cannot do it with a chainsaw. And so it's got to be done really carefully.
I would agree with you
But
if we were trying to take care of it before it got out of hand. But you
Oh.
can't cut down a tree with a scalpel. You need a
Right.
chainsaw.
You can. It'll just take a long time. And I'm not sure that we have that time.
Tree will grow faster than you can cut through it.
But Cole, what if you took that differently? What if you took some really educated, really nonpartisan people and you started listening to science, you started listening to data, you started listening to subject matter experts. So instead of using one scalpel to cut down the tree, we used 50. 50 really carefully watched, regulated, intelligent scalpels come at this tree, and we're all carving it up a little bit at a time to make a difference. It
That
can
sounds
be
like how
done.
Congress would describe themselves.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Goodness.
Am I wrong?
I mean, you're not.
No.
I don't want to
I
be on
get
the
what you're
side of
saying.
Congress as it is.
I get what you're saying. Trust me, I do.
I don't think a chainsaw is effective. It is efficient enough for it to work for
Yeah.
the majority of
I-
people.
I want it to be done with
Some
intelligence
regulations.
and,
Reason.
really looking at what is good and what needs to be removed and what doesn't need to be removed. And
Cut down the
surely
tree, plant a new seed.
we are capable of reviewing what we've done, of looking at our past.
Technology is so greatly advanced in the
Yeah.
process of this tree growing. We can figure this out. And maybe that looks like you guys remember, I remember seeing it on ESPN. There's like a competition of all of these lumberjacks, I guess, like lumberjack artists who are using chainsaws to carve art into trees. Like,
Yeah.
what if we had a couple of different chainsaw masters who are all sitting here working on it? Eventually you can figure it out. Eventually you can cut it down. Eventually art will be made because it's people who are carefully regulating those chainsaws.
I just keep thinking, where do you find the chainsaw master?
ESPN.
Huh?
ESPN.
Okay. All right. With that, are this was interesting, and I think it gives you some avenues to look at and some things to consider and to communicate with your
Yeah.
representatives about.
Yeah. Thought provoking for sure.
Yeah. So this was good.
Yeah.
This was good. Who's got my weird thought?
I'll bring you your weird thought. So we're recording this on a Sunday. Total transparency here. What if we woke up tomorrow morning on Monday and every single member of Congress was replaced overnight?
Would we
Who did
celebrate?
we replace them with?
Yeah.
That
Oh.
is the question.
It is.
Because it could be
How that's
great
all
or it could
determined?
be catastrophic.
Absolutely.
Would you want to be one of the replacements?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
You would?
If I thought I
That
could make a
surprises me.
positive change for our country, why not?
I mean, I think that the question for me becomes how are we throwing our hats in the ring to become those people who are replaced overnight? And
This jury selection?
right, right. And how does that all work? I mean, that's part of democracy, right? We're voting in members of Congress to come in and represent us. So how does that all work? I think it would be an absolutely fascinating thought exercise at the very least if we said, hey, the next election, everybody in Congress is out.
All incumbents. Done.
All incumbents, which would be every single member of Congress today, are no longer eligible for reelection. We have to vote in all new people.
I don't think you can on every election because aren't they staggered?
Yes, they are.
But
But my
But if you
point is the
did it,
same. We're voting
yeah,
every single person, a new person into every single seat in the next couple of
every
elections.
every new election, all incumbents are gone.
I think it would be so interesting. I mean,
I think you would absolutely 100% change the type of people who are trying to get those spots.
yes. And I think some of them would be for the better, and I think some of them would be for worse.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. I think in general it would be beneficial. I
And
think it
I
would be
think,
more
But how
beneficial than
long would they
harmful.
stay?
I was going to say, if they're in
4
the
years.
next election, they're out. They got their time. This is it. You better hustle and get to work. Like I said at the very beginning of this episode, this is a hustling episode. You have the same exact mentality going in to serve as a Congress member. Let's go. Get it done. And then
Get it
get out.
done or don't and focus on something that you can.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of a tangent to this, but I sent you guys a video several months ago, and obviously it there were some shortcomings with her thought process, with her methodology here, but it was an interesting idea to essentially eliminate voting for representation and do it like jury duty. You're in the position for 6 months to a
Mm.
year. You take 1,000 Americans from across the nation. Hey, you get paid X amount of dollars for your 6 months to a year of service. You have access to these subject matter experts, to all of this information, this data. It's going to be more transparent. You're not going to have these government secrets. You're going to have a society that is now invested and involved in governing themselves, because there's a chance that you might be one of the people helping to make those decisions.
Yeah, it's a lottery all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I just think of how many people don't want to do jury service. So what do you do with those people who get in there and don't want to do their service?
I think that you
Tough
make it,
shit.
yeah, I think that you make it part of your civic duty. And again,
Mm.
I know that I look at jury duty differently than everybody else. I
Yeah.
look at jury duty as an honor and as an opportunity to do right by somebody else, to give them a chance to hear them out, to hear the actual case. And I would want somebody to do the same for me. I think that moment that you turn it into a lottery, like Cole's talking about, it immediately forces a sense of accountability, a sense of transparency, and it it puts everybody on display and holds them accountable. The onus becomes on them as people. You want to sit here and slack off and keep your head down in the back? Fine, but everybody's going to see it. Just know that. So when you go back home at the end of your 6 months or whatever it is, you have to answer for that.
Here's the thing. I think you can market it to the American people in a positive light, but you don't you don't get a choice. If you get picked, I don't get an option. I have to sign up for selective service. And if I get drafted, guess what?
You're going.
I'm going somewhere. That's
Yeah.
just how it works.
Yeah.
I get the benefits of being a US citizen. I have to pay the price of being a US citizen. If
Yeah.
you don't like it, go somewhere else. Tough.
You sound very Republican all of a sudden. Goodness.
Well, let me put this little twist in that has been in my brain since we started talking about this weird thought. What would Monday comes around, everybody's new? What happens to the shutdown?
It would be
I
over.
mean, would it? You have a whole new group of people who can either choose to have compromise and have discussions to make things move forward, to move the needle, or you have more of the same that are like, oh no,
I
And
guess
we
it
don't care.
depends on, there are
and
some
they're green.
criteria that we have to cover first. Who is replacing them?
Yeah.
Because I think if you took the average American and said, did it like a lottery, said, it's your job now,
Yep.
they're going to say, man, everybody's been talking about not getting, all these government workers aren't getting paid. I wouldn't want to not get paid. All of these people who are using EBT cards who can't feed their kids, they would like to be able to feed their families.
Right.
All of these things that we need to be sending funds to that we're not right now, all of this information that's not being provided, all of these services that are not being provided, maybe we just say, yeah, let's do this.
I would love to see the administration's reaction to a whole new set of people.
We could pay for the entire ballroom being built from all of the bricks that would be shit. Tell me I'm wrong.
And on that note,
Mom, you got a good news story for
I
us.
got a good news story. Speaking of SNAP, there is a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon called the Heretic Coffee Shop. It is a not-for-profit coffee shop. And Tuesday, on the 30th day of the shutdown, they decided that they would start kind of soliciting to raise funds. And all of the people that came in had links to their social media stuff. They said, hey, let's raise some money. By the end of the day, the first day, they had $86,000
Can you back up? What exactly were they raising money for?
to make up the difference on the SNAP, to pay for some of the SNAP stuff.
Okay.
And the reason they did it is because the owner, Josh White, said, when the system fails us, it's on everyday people to take care of each other. So they put this link out. The first day they had 2,000 donors, $86,000. I think it was the end of the next day, they were up to $100,000. And yeah, it's just a little bit of the bucket. But y'all, nobody mandated this. Nobody said it was just, we're putting it out there. This is what it's for. If you want to donate, donate. And they're raising money.
You know, we talked earlier about one bill, one issue, one vote. If you go to their website, and I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes to it, but if you go to their website, this is everything that it says about this topic. Number one, donate to the SNAP breakfast tier. And then when you go to the donation page, it says SNAP breakfast donation, enter donation amount. You have a box for it. And this is for covering breakfast costs for those losing their SNAP benefits. Check out. That's the whole thing. No more, no less. This is what it is. Let us know how much you'd like to donate. Donate.
It's very interesting to me that it's a not-for-profit who is supporting their own values in what they're doing.
Yeah.
It is people, general public saying, "Oh, we can do this." And it's not millions of dollars that are coming up or that you're having to spend. It's, small donations that are adding up to something significant. It's it's just an amazing story that somebody thought, "Hey, we can help take care of this problem. Let's do something."
I also think that it is so visible and apparent that this is their mission. And it
Yeah,
is not specifically their mission to go and fix SNAP benefits, but
no.
they named their coffee shop Heretic because the definition of that word is to disrupt the established institution of something. We exist to disrupt consumer coffee culture by advocating for community instead of a caffeine fix, and at the same time bringing awareness on how consuming coffee can positively or negatively affect our world. They said, this is our mission because this is what we value, and this is how we are going to live it out. This is the need. This is how we're going to address it. Please join us.
Pretty cool story.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it just goes back to simplifying everything. We do
Mhm.
not need to overcomplicate things to help our friends and neighbors. Because at the end of the day, whether we agree with them or whether we like them, they are still our friends and neighbors.
Love you guys.
Love you too.